You know what I love more than true crime? Something that's actually inside of true crime: organized crime. Here we go. Hi, I'm Holliday, and this is Chloroform and Chillz. Today I'm going to do a little bit something different with less edits, a little bit of notes. That's it. Ooh, my screen dirty. Y'all heard about what's going on with Diddy, right? Okay, so I want to do a yap sesh where I just want to yap about everything that's going on. And because I ain't got nobody else to yap to but y'all. And I feel like nobody is very deep in the waters about this case like I am. So here we go. Remember, see already, minimal edits. So be kind to me. Okay. I only got like a couple bullet points. And let's see how long this yap sesh can go. This will be part one of the Diddy trial, because if you didn't know, it's halfway through right now. We'll do a part two once a verdict and everything comes out. This is part one of Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy Combs, aka Brother Love, aka Puff Daddy, whatever you want to call him. This is the first part of his trial, and right now we're almost at the end, actually. So I want to start off at the beginning of what is a RICO. A RICO is part of organized crime. What is a RICO? A RICO is when you have a legitimate business and then you're doing a legal business under the name of a legitimate business, and when you use that money from the legitimate business to then perform illegal acts, services, coercion, influence somebody to change their mind or anything, RICO. Why don't we start where the court case started, you know? And mind you, this is, like I said, this is a yap sesh, so this is all off of my head of what I remember, what's going on. If I have missed anything, I will be linking some podcasts where I got all my information from, a few other people like the press that have been inside the courtroom, because I've been watching live on Law and Crime, but also I've been hearing like a podcast called Rod Mango and Armand Wiggins, I think his name is. I've been watching his takes too on like YouTube, TikTok, anywhere you can find it. So I will link all those people and all those channels down below in case you want to hit on something that I missed, because it's a lot and you can miss stuff from everything that's going on, you know? So let's start from the beginning when they started picking jurors. This jury, the prosecution and the defense, well, the government and the defense, they wanted the jury to be even amount of men and women. No, sorry. The prosecution wanted this jury to have more women on it, but the defense wanted it to be mostly men. So what it boiled down to is that they have 8 men jurors and 4 women jurors. So let's hope it goes in the direction that everybody wants to see it go in, because all the allegations that are going on with Sean Combs, P. Diddy, are horrendous and unfathomable. Ah, inside of what's actually going on. But I want to start from the very beginning. And the very beginning is usually him, his, not usually, is him with Kim Porter. And if you don't know the story about him being with Kim Porter, he was with Kim Porter back when he was just like an executive assistant or or something like that. And he saw Kim and thought she was the most beautiful woman in the world, and he really wanted to be with her. And he went hard to be with Kim Porter. He always texted her, seeing how she was doing, came to her desk because they worked at the same building together, at the same place that was producing music for artists. And eventually, Kim let P. Diddy in. Period. And once she let him in, they were dating and everything. And out of nowhere, no, actually, not out of nowhere, what happened is that Kim was a woman that she knew what she was, she knew what her work was, and she didn't race after men. That's all I'll say. She didn't race after men. And that was something that Diddy didn't really like after he was dating her for a while. He said that when he would walk, he felt like when he walked in the room places, Kim Porter didn't clap for him or stand for him. So he gets with Kim Porter, realizes that she doesn't chase or whatever, however you want to say it, or he feels like she doesn't clap for him. So he decides to go date J Lo out of nowhere, and Kim Porter doesn't even know that they're like broken up, not together. She, after having a baby by P Diddy, Sean Diddy Combs, she sees on the news that he's at an award show or some type of award show with J Lo, Jennifer Lopez, babes. Okay, and Kim is like really shocked that they aren't, like, she was like, "Oh, I thought we were together." And she didn't even react to him being with J Lo. That really made him butthurt. I'll say that. It really made him shocked that he didn't get a reaction from this woman that he really was really into, worked hard to get, and he's like, "Oh, you don't care that I'm basically like cheating on you and not being with you?" So Kim Porter was like, "Yeah, no, you can have that. I'm not that type of girl." Okay? Period. During the time where he's still messing around with Kim Porter and everything, that's when he meets 17 or 18-year-old Cassidy. Yeah. Everything that I say, all the allegations and everything is alleged when it comes to what Diddy and Cassidy did until there is a verdict. Soon, hopefully, there is a verdict. He meets Cassidy. She's 17 years old. 17, 18 years old. And this is when Diddy starts to take a liking to her and he starts to, I would like to say the word groom her. Remember, this is all alleged. He starts to groom her. He decides to teach her what oral sex is at 18. Diddy is like what, in his 40s or something, or 50s? I don't know. He's like in his 40s or something at this time. He teaches her what oral sex is, and that's kind of the beginning of the whole dynamic of Cassidy and Diddy. But remember, at this time, he's still dating Kim Porter, and it goes on for a while, and it is released in court that during this time, Cassie is actually really upset that he's still dealing, like, that he's dealing with Kim Porter and dealing with her at the same time. But I think this is only because Cassie was 18, that she really just had a young mind. She really didn't understand. P. Diddy kind of was like her first kiss in a way. She said when he kissed her for the first time ever, she was like, I can't even say how she was. She ran away and I think she cried or whatever because she was just embarrassed because she didn't know what that meant. She thought that you only kissed people that you wanted to be with. And it was just like, oh, you must think this your man, girl. This is not your man. But it makes me wonder, did she understand what was going on between Diddy and Kim Porter for her to think that she could mess with Diddy? And after he officially like is done with Kim Porter or whatever, this is when Cassie starts to get into the front row of being Diddy's public girlfriend. And during court, you start to see how it escalated to the abuse and the alleged sex trafficking that they're saying that Diddy orchestrated. Cassidy, it started off with him explaining to her what his fantasies are, and his fantasies we all know now. If you don't know, his fantasies are to watch the woman that he's with have intercourse with another man. It goes deep into that. We might get a little PG-13 rated R. It goes even deeper into that. But first, he tells her, what he's into. He asks her, does she want to experience that with him? She's young and she thinks, like, yeah, this is like between like 18 and 21 when he's like, working her into getting into what his sexual fantasies are. And we find out that his sexual fantasies also have a twist in them. It's a lot of baby oil, it's a lot of lube, there's a lot of candle wax. The prostitute or the stripper or the entertainment, the escort that they order is asked to ejaculate either inside or on top of Cassidy so Diddy can have intercourse with her later to just have a good night. But also in the middle of all this, drugs. In the middle of this, it's a bunch of drugs. It's a bunch of cocaine, ketamine, ecstasy. Also, Diddy is on this stuff too. And Cassidy does mention that she did all these drugs just so she could get through the night, so she could just not even like disassociate, block it out. The craziest thing I heard was that these sessions would last from 36 to 72 hours, and the shortest one was 36 hours. So, wow, like who has it in them to have sex that long, or to be in that moment, intimate things for that long. After I thought about it, I was like, oh, it's the drugs. It's the drugs. It's the drugs that gets him to be where he is, to get him to last. And also, they're not sleeping during this time of playtime. They are awake because of the drug. Yeah, one escort estimated that he was given like $2,000 to $4,000 a night, and some escorts supposedly weren't paid at all. One escort said that the first time that he met Cassidy and Diddy, she was in a wig, glasses, and heels, and lingerie, and Diddy was in glasses, a bandana around his mouth, and a hat to hide his identity. And then after he saw if the escort was into it, he then revealed who he was. Yeah, he then revealed who he was. That's only the intercourse that was happening between them. That was their fun times, their what they call freak offs. There came a time where Cassidy was tired of being on drugs. She was also getting like UTIs from engaging in so much playtime, as you can say. Yeah, when Cassidy would try to decline being in, a freak off, Diddy would unfortunately abuse her. And I will say, I will put warning up, because that is very unfortunate. And I will say, from being myself in an abusive relationship, 8 years, hell, it wasn't physical, but it was a lot of mental. Once you're fed up and you try to basically like get control of yourself and fight back a little bit, it can get dangerous. For me, thank God it did not get dangerous. But for Cassidy, anytime she didn't want to get involved in any of Diddy's activities, freak offs, it would get dangerous. He would hit her, abuse her, kick her. It was actually an incident where he actually like allegedly took one of her friends when they were at like either a hotel or Cassidy's house. He abused one of her friends, saying, "Where's Cassidy?" And he was hanging her over a balcony by her arms or her neck or something. What's that about? You that mad you can't find this girl? Like what? And there's other times where he has kicked Cassidy, has slapped, beat, everything, even in front of his like assistants, his bodyguards. I think what is the most sad is that he would abuse her in front of his assistants and bodyguards, and nobody stepped in to do anything. And I'm pretty sure it's because of, one, this was their job. They signed NDAs, and also he was paying them to keep quiet. Well, his assistants was a different story. We'll get to that. But like his bodyguards, he was paying to keep quiet. He even was paying his bodyguards to terrorize Cassidy if she, say they had a moment where they broke up or whatever, or was on a break. He would use his bodyguards to terrorize her by either trashing her hotels, trashing her houses. If you didn't know, he did buy her house, or he did pay for her hotels, her lifestyle. And he would send them to destroy her shit. Or say she didn't answer the phone, he would call her 52 times and then send his bodyguard or assistant to knock on the door to see where she is. Or his story is, after even that, he beat up Cassidy's best friend and one of his assistants because she wouldn't answer the phone and she was taking a nap. So yeah, the abuse is real over there. The abuse starts to like leak out when that video at the hotel that they were at is basically leaked or released or whatever. So come to find out, in that video, if you didn't know, Diddy tried to pay off one of the security at I think it's called the Continental Hotel, and he tried to basically pay off one of the security guards like $21,000 or $121,000. It was some crazy amount, just so he didn't report what was going on, that he beat up Cassidy, and he had to get involved because guests were actually reporting that, like, hey, somebody's beating somebody up outside my room. But the bodyguard came up and was like, hey, what's going on? Like, you're damaging the hotel, because actually Diddy, I think, threw a lamp at her, or they broke something while they were tussling, and he was like, hey, you're gonna have to pay for this. And Diddy was like, yeah, my bad, man. Went in his bag, pulled out a stack of money, and tried to give it to him. The guy was like, yeah, no, I don't take that. I wanted to make sure that you're gonna fix this hotel. And I think that was the beginning of when Diddy realized, like, oh, I can't coerce this person with money, with my influence of being Puff Daddy, Diddy, Sean Diddy Combs, Brother Love, whatever. Act like none of this didn't happen. And during this moment, Cassidy just kept saying to the like security, like, I just want to go, I just want to leave, I just want to leave. The security was able to actually help Cassidy leave. She got another hotel by herself, was able to get away from Diddy. But Diddy had to handle other things in the hotel. Like, he had to talk to the security manager. The security manager was like, hey, we just want to see how you're going to pay for these damages, because, we're having, some issues here with your behavior and what's going on. Like, what's up? And supposedly Diddy ended up assaulting the security manager because he thought the security manager was recording him. So if you don't know why that fight between Cassidy and Diddy happened inside the hotel during that, like, the footage, it's because Cassidy didn't want to engage in a freak off, and Diddy got pissed off, and she got dressed and tried to leave, and he decided to whoop that ass. And I think that is sickening in itself, because that's a moment where she's saying, hey, I don't want to engage with this. So now you're trying to force it to happen by beating her up. And how I feel is that you think after whooping somebody's ass, you think they're gonna want to have a freak off. Also alleged that it was never one guy a night. Like, it wasn't never one escort, one stripper, one whatever. It was always multiple a night. But in the beginning, it was one, but then it gradually got up to multiple men a night, a day, hours, whatever you want to say. That's a little bit of the information they were giving. I will say during the court proceedings, the only reason why we really heard that information first was because during this time, Cassidy was, because she had her baby, she was like 9 months pregnant. Like 8, 9 months, yeah, 9 months pregnant. She had to testify first due to going into labor, basically, sooner or later. And then I think that weekend she had her baby after she was done testifying. Her testimony was three days, or 2 to 3 days, or something like that. After they talk about some of the sexual assaults, the sex crimes that Diddy has, they go and move on to his assistants. His assistants, I will say the three that they talk about, because one actually has her identity hidden. He has three assistants in this time period, not at once, but during this time period, he has like a three assistants. He has one that's a man, he has another woman, and then he has one named Mia. The male assistant always just talked about how Diddy was always mean, basically just really mean to him. And during this time, he felt like Diddy really pushed him hard to be perfect. Also, the hours were crazy. It was basically, you had to be by Diddy's side before he woke up, and you had to be by his side when he went to sleep. And sometimes that can last between 12, 24 hours. Yeah. And also, he was only getting paid like $55,000 a year, working 7 days a week, not sleeping or anything. Yeah, that's crazy. He said it was one time where him and Diddy was in a car. He was falling asleep, and Diddy yelled at him like, man, get it together. And he was like, man, I'm tired. Like, I've been up for hours, days, the whole day, and now you want me to sit here and drive you somewhere? So he ends up turning around and taking Diddy home. I guess he ends up going to sleep, and that probably is the last day that he works for Diddy, or one of the last days, because Diddy feels as though he's giving people an opportunity and they should want to work hard for it. And I will say all his assistants that testified say that working under Diddy, it's like a cult a little bit. I will say, they will say like, yeah, he treated me bad, but when the highs were high, the lows were low. I always loved Diddy. And it was like, huh? Because one assistant talks about how Diddy would throw things at her, like a computer, food, his fist, and basically attack her if she didn't do things right. But he always would try to do that. Like, that main abusive thing is like, when I hurt you one day, I'm going to give you a gift the next day to make you feel better, to say I'm sorry or whatever. But for his assistants, it would be like, all right, one day it would be like, you're a shit person, I'm going to beat you up. The next day is, you know what, you really be working hard, I really see what you're doing that to somebody's mental really can actually mess them up. I will say that you can always, it does. When you rag on somebody so hard that they feel like they're nothing, and then out of nowhere you give them that compliment, it gives them like that little bit of a dopamine effect to make them feel like, yeah, maybe all this abuse is worth it. As long as he's happy, this abuse is worth it. And on top of that, some of his assistants were only getting paid $50,000 to $70,000 a year. I guess it was worth it to them. He would take them everywhere with him. You know what I mean? He would take them on private islands. He would take them to video shoots. They would meet artists. They were always around when Diddy needed something. So, the life that Diddy was living, they were also living it too, just in the shadows. I guess that gave them some reason to want to stay, but one of his assistants he was sexually assaulting. All his assistants had to live in his house, or I think two of them. All of his assistants lived in his house, and he had one policy, and it was no locked doors in my house. This is how it leads to him sexually assaulting one of his assistants. Her name is Mia, and this is definitely during a time that he's with Cassidy, and Mia was very close to Cassidy, such as another assistant was close with Cassidy. They all do get close with Cassidy. On his 40th, 45th, 40th birthday, he sexually assaults his assistant. Another time when she's just trying to pack his bags or figuring out his outfits or something, he sexually assaults her in the closet. And it's just rough. I will say it's just rough hearing this, because it's so scary to not know that, hey, if I go to the police with this, will they believe me? Or if I quit, will I have a job after this? And I will only say that because the assistant before Mia talked about how after she worked so long with Diddy, she was fired, and after that it took her a really long time to find another job. And she believes it's, well, it's not, she believes it's kind of alluded to that she was like blacklisted or whatever, and she would constantly text P. Diddy, Sean Diddy Combs, Diddy, that she always wanted to work with him again. She loves him. Like, that's one big thing that you notice. And that's one big thing I will say his defense always brings up, is that all of his assistants love him. Or they always post great things about him, or they're always texting him to see how the family is. I was like, okay, I get it, but I ain't gonna lie, get my ass beat for 50, 70K ain't worth it a year. And maybe it's because of who I am. I'm not that deep into meeting stars. I don't think I would have the tolerance to withstand the abuse, to just be around just because I'm meeting stars. Just because I might meet Rihanna, or I might meet Dawn, one of his singers, when he made, a band with Dawn and all these other girls, right? I don't know if I would be able to like do that. And we all know that P. Diddy knows a lot of people in the music industry. So there is a time where he could be meeting everybody or seeing anybody cool or whatever. You know what I mean? It just shows, I will say, what abuse can do to you. You think that, this is okay. It's not too bad. But when you finally write it down on paper and you finally hear back the experience, it's like, yeah, this is actually pretty damn bad. Like, what? During all this, assistants, also all three of his assistants admitted to having to put together hotel rooms for the freak offs he would do with Cassidy and any of his other girlfriends after Cassidy. They said that they will always have to make sure the room has red lights, make sure that there is at least 24 bottles of baby oil and lube available at any time. Because one thing Diddy was very into is making sure everybody was oiled up and lubed up. Because let's have an adult conversation. Have y'all ever, man or woman, not been attracted to somebody and you don't either get an erection, or I guess you wouldn't get turned on, sexually turned on? So the lube was to help women be wet and ready. Yes, I said it. There we go. Yeah. And he needed like 12 to 24 bottles of that stuff. He used at least a gallon of lube and baby oil to get through his freak offs that his assistants would set up beforehand, before anybody would come over. From testimony through everything that's going on, you find out that it's actually really hard to clean up Diddy's hotel rooms after a freak off. The hotel is usually charging Diddy between $1,000 to $2,000 just to clean up the room after a freak off. And also, they are spraying air freshener in the hallways of a freak off because they said they have a weird smell. Do you want to know what the weird smell is from, supposedly? It's supposedly from body and period blood. Diddy was with having intercourse with his girlfriends or women while they were on their periods. And by the way, the escorts, strippers, prostitutes, sex workers, they didn't wear condoms most of the time, so that's something to hear about. That's concerning, you know? Yeah, that made me very because multiple girlfriends of Diddy always complained of having UTIs and always on antibiotics. And if you didn't know, when you take antibiotics too much, your body can get immune to them, and that's dangerous. Oh, oof, because it's just so. I will say it's so hard to hear this information, especially from a primary source such as girlfriends, Cassidy and another girl. It's so hard to hear some of this information and not be like, yo, where's the empathy? Either Cassidy or a girlfriend said, like, hey, I can't do it tonight. There's no empathy of not doing it tonight. Especially knowing that these freak offs last for almost 3 days straight, you know? Like, at the end of these freak offs, people were having to get IV bags, such as Diddy, Cassidy, or the escort, because they were so dehydrated. Not to get off topic, which I've been like everywhere, but I just think it's just crazy information to hear. And it's just like, oh my God. When you read what's going on while it's going up, it's like, oh my God. Like every 3 seconds is, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Can it get any worse? Can it get any worse? And then it does get worse. And it's like, oh my God. It gets so bad. We start to learn that Daddy, Sean Diddy Combs, Brother Love, Sean Combs, he's actually very obsessive and he doesn't like to share outside of the bedroom. Cassidy tried to move on from Diddy when they were having like a break or they were broken up. She tried to date Scott Muscuddy. Who was Scott Muscuddy? Kid Cudi. She tried to date Kid Cudi, and what happened is when Diddy found out, because like I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because I'm like I'm very nervous. Like I'm very anxious they like regurgitate this information or to even think of how diabolical this man is. Cassidy and Kid Cudi start dating. Diddy finds out. Remember when I said he was dangling one of her friends off of a balcony? That's when that happened. Also, when he found out that Cassidy was dating Kid Cudi, he decided to ask Cassidy to come back over to his house so they could talk about it, and he ends up beating Cassidy up. He ends up kicking her in the back, kicking her all over the house. And she has to run and hide. Also, other stories that like Cassidy with one of the assistants one time, they were on like a beach or something and they got in a boat because Cassidy and the assistant were running from Diddy. They were in paddle boats in the water until he calmed down. But they had to go back because a storm was about to hit in the ocean. Like what? But back to what's going on with Kid Cudi. So she's dating Kid Cudi. One of the assistants is like, "Hey, Diddy found out you're dating Kid Cudi. We are now at Kid Cudi's house, and Diddy has broken into Kid Cudi. No, he's in the process of breaking into Kid Cudi's house. Please let Scott know who is Kid Cudi. They're trying to break in his house, and Kid Cudi is supposedly heard in the background of the phone call. He's in my house? Like, what the hell? So Kid Cudi gets in his car, tries to get back to his house as soon as possible. When he arrives, Diddy is not there. They got into his house. Kid Cudi has a dog, and he noticed that he knows they were in his house. One, because the assistant called Cassidy. Two, his dog was locked up in a room, and Kid Cudi, under oath, said that his dog roams around his house. So he knew that somebody was in his house, and that was a message that they were, that they were there. And also, supposedly it was around Christmas time. So P. Diddy and his bodyguards opened up all his Chanel gifts that he had for his family. Oh, but don't worry, it gets worse because later on, allegedly, Diddy sets his car on fire with a Molotov cocktail. It goes off from that, and Kid Cudi actually does get the LAPD involved. They're able to collect evidence from his burnt up car. They were able to get a few fingerprints, and suspiciously, those prints go missing. Actually, no, I'll even go further. They weren't missing. We find out in court that they were destroyed. This is a moment in time where they start to believe that Diddy had a hand getting those prints destroyed by like paying the LAPD. Because I believe that Diddy at one point was making anonymous donations to the LAPD. Yeah, money goes far, especially when you're a billionaire or close to being one. At the time of all this happened, he was worth 740 million. $740 million. As of right now, during while he's in court, he's worth $400 million. So yeah, money goes a long way. After all this commotion happens with Kid Cudi agrees to sit down and talk to Diddy after all the harassment Diddy did to try to get Kid Cudi to come to dinner with him so they can talk it out with Cassidy there. Kid Cudi finally agrees. He goes, he talks to Diddy saying like, yeah, our relationship wasn't even that long. It was fresh. We were just still like, starting to get to know each other. And Diddy was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, sorry about everything that happened. And Kid Cudi was like, what about my car? And Diddy was like, what car? And Kid Cudi was like, so you didn't have anything to do with my car getting set on fire? And he was like, no. Kid Cudi said that meeting was weird because not once but twice did P. Diddy try to get him to drink a glass of water. Kid Cudi was like, yeah, that's kind of weird because why do you keep trying to get me to drink a glass of water? Also said that when he first walked into the meeting, P. Diddy was standing in front of a window looking out the city like a Marvel villain. He just was like, yeah, the man is weird. So, we talked and I left. And now that he looks back on it, he realizes that was a weird thing. That was a weird thing that was going on. That's everything that's been going on so far in his case. But also is a little bit more information because, like, if you go to the podcast or you go to somebody else that's in the courtroom that is part of the press, you start to realize that P. Diddy is not holding up like you think he is. His behaviors in court are odd. They said the first week he seemed like or acted like he was like an incompetent adult, not knowing how to use his iPad, and his lawyers having to fix it for him or anything, being just very helpful to make it seem like he's a helpful person by taking off his lawyer's jackets and everything, smiling at the jury, nodding with the jury. When certain people are testifying, he's either stone straight, like great posture, or he is slouching in his chair. What are people reporting right now is that like we're getting to the end of this trial and we're starting to see the real Diddy is starting to come out. And the real Diddy is somebody that really he doesn't care anymore. He's just all right, well, I'm here, like, what's next? And they say that he do these certain poses where he's slouching, or sometimes he's stone straight, or sometimes he has this like businessman stature. Recently, he was yelled at the judge for basically trying to persuade the jury to be on his side by like smiling at the jury, laughing with the jury, mouthing to the jury, it's so cold in here. Just small things to make it seem like, I guess, to make it seem like he's human. And actually, like, I can't believe they're saying that they did these like crazy things. Usually, when they bring up money, is when he really stares at the jury because he's like, all right, well, just because we did these acts doesn't mean that they didn't get payment for them. I will say that one of his girlfriends, he did buy her a house and was paying her $10,000 rent. Only gave her $20,000 to furnish $10,000 rented home. And she ended up actually going into debt with 3 credit cards because she asked him for money and he wouldn't give it to her so she could help furnish her home. Yeah, and also till this day, he is still paying her $10,000 rent. Don't know how that is going to work out for everybody. I've been enjoying it. I'm like neck deep and information. Understand that I'm not going to do a lot of edits on this, so it was just like, oh my god, oh my god, I just felt like I need to really like just get it all out and just yap real hard, because I realized that I'm so deep into true crime that everybody not into this, so I need to yap to somebody. And that's just me giving you the cliff notes. Okay, there are other people out here like Armand Wiggins in a podcast called Rotten Mangoes that's doing the nitty gritty, looking at the transcripts and everything, or Law and Crime, where you can get the information immediately to you. Okay, I gave you a couple stories that was going on, so if you really want to go and understand what's really going on, you might want to get into those podcasts or something, because I'm deep into it. But like, I just feel like I had to talk to somebody about this. And don't worry, we will do a part 2, because once we get his verdict, I want to come back and I want to yap again. I hope y'all enjoyed my first ever yap sesh for Chloroform and Chillz. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you really like the content that I'm giving out, go ahead, hit that button. Please have a good day. Stay safe, and I will see you guys later. Bye.